August. You want to take a little break from the
It is a
farm?
Thursday.
Thursday.
September.
Are you guys ready to start the meeting? Oh, we gotta wait. I don't know, neither you heard from him?
No.
Well, we got a quorum without him, so.
I haven't talked to Harley in months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even
Last
seen him
time
on, I mean, I see him drive by, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Usually I'll chat him with him on the road.
We are live.
Okay, well, let's call our meeting to order. What's it, June 20th, ZBA meeting, started the public. Allegiance to the flag.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Jasmine, will you do the roll call, please?
Chair Zarowski,
Present.
Vice Chair Haugen,
Present.
Member Davis, Member Stevens,
Present.
Member Fisher,
Present.
and Member Bowden.
All right, well, we've got a quorum, so we can have our meeting. Welcome all of you guys. Nice being in the air conditioning right now. So the first thing on our agenda is the Friendly Acres Homeowners Association variance, which was probably a surprise for all of you to see that back on there. Well, so I'll just want to explain what happened and why it's back on the agenda and what we need to do. So I think, what was it, our May meeting, we closed that one out. We did a decision on that and signed the decision. We're going through all the things to file it, get it to the applicant. And as part of dotting the i's and crossing the t's, we noticed, or Jasmine noticed, that it hadn't gotten published in the newspaper when we did the public hearing. There was some sort of communications snafu. Nobody caught it until we were going to just finalize everything. First thing Jasmine did was let Supervisor Nowen know, check with the town attorney. What do we need to do? And basically the state law is really clear that if public hearing wasn't noticed properly, which means it's got to be both in the paper and the letters have to get mailed out to all the neighbors, then if there was ever any issue with the decision, if it was challenged in any way, it would be invalidated and it would go back to as if it had never happened. And also now that we noticed it and knew about it, or not noticed, now that we were aware of the mistake, we needed to correct it. So I reached out to the applicants, let them know what was going on. So basically what we need to do to make it correct is we have to go back to the public hearing stage. So we have to, this board has to reschedule the public hearing, which in a second I'll make a motion to do. And then we have to have that public hearing at the next meeting. And then hopefully we can just, maybe there'll be some new information, maybe there won't. We'll see. But hopefully at that point we can just make the decision. It would likely be very similar unless there's some new information that comes to light. But that's the situation. So basically to correct the mistake, the oversight, that we're glad it was discovered. And thank you for letting everyone know that it happened. And it's good to catch that stuff. We just need to redo that. So I'll make a motion to reschedule. Oh, I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to just do a quick motion to withdraw the original decision, just to make it totally clear that it's no longer in place. So I'll make a motion to rescind our original decision on ZBA application 2023-06. A second on that?
Second.
I do have one question on
Yeah.
that before we go. Does the applicant know that this is the process that's going forward?
Yes,
Okay,
I've had,
fully aware of it.
yeah. I had 2 conversations with them, one about a little over a week ago, and then another one today, because they had some additional questions. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so all in favor of rescinding that decision because it wasn't properly noticed, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, that motion carries. So now I'm going to make another motion that based on all the information we had, we feel prepared to treat the application as submitted, and we've reviewed it, and we're at a stage where we're able to set a public hearing. So I'm gonna make a motion to set public hearing for our July 20. Let me just get that date, sorry.
Can we discuss something before we vote on that?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud here, but
Yeah,
I
we
did
can-
receive some pictures with relation to that I wasn't aware of prior to.
Yeah, so we
original
can,
hearing.
well, let me finish doing the motion, then we can discuss it before we vote on the motion. So to schedule it for the Thursday, July 18th meeting, is there a second for that? Okay, so discussion. So there were some pictures that were forwarded to our board through the code enforcement office. I don't have the full backstory of that, of how those pictures came about. I think Jasmine has some information, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I got it.
Right, I wanna check with just the town attorney of how we're supposed to handle that kind of correspondence, whether that just becomes part of the public hearing. What exactly it's trying to illustrate, and just how it came about, I just don't know.
So who took the pictures, who submitted the pictures?
Jerry.
Right, so we just need to get a little more context, and even to what extent it's germane is unclear to me. So that's an open question for me too, and unfortunately Mary Lou's or fortunately for her, unfortunately for answering that question, she's on vacation right now. But we will be able to have an answer to that before our next meeting, and before we have that public hearing. So, is there any more discussion? Okay, so,
I'm not sure we're gonna be here for that,
okay,
but you'll be three if, unless Harley.
yeah, hopefully Harley's here. I mean, all we're scheduling is the public hearing. So as long as we have a forum, we can do that, which I
Okay.
expect we'll be able to have a forum. So all in favor of scheduling that public hearing, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, so that public hearing is now scheduled. You'll put it in the
I'll type it
paper,
up, send it to you, you'll say, yes, it's good, I'll send it to you.
and we also need to do the
The newspaper,
mailings
website,
one more
and
time.
then-
Landowner.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do them not paying for the second mailing?
Yeah, we'll sort that out at the end. The town board has to say that's
So,
okay, but I expect they will.
well,
Uh,
One we did.
once it's time to bill, yeah. Okay, so now we have some new applications. The first one is Elkin, Elizabeth Elkin, and maybe whoever you're with, if you both want to come up, it's up to you.
Yeah, sure. Should we sit down here?
Yeah, you can sit down.
Okay.
And we're kind of low tech, we're kind of informal also, but we do like to make sure everyone gets a turn to speak and that we follow all our correct procedures. So I guess maybe it's good to just start by introducing yourself and giving us an overview of what you all are trying to do,
Okay,
how you ended up here, and then we can explain the process to you also.
that would be great, yes. So I'm Liz Elkin. I purchased 5917 Route 44 in Hobson from Jim Smith about a month or so ago, 2 months ago. And I bought it from him because he had to leave the house because a drunk driver came off the road and smashed his entire house. And so the entire foundation on that side of the house has to be rebuilt, which we have a building permit and we're in the middle of fixing up right now. And in order to feel safe at this house for ourselves and also for future owners, we want to put up a really big privacy fence with a gate to block traffic because it's very busy. The house is very close and there is already an existing guardrail. And that guardrail existed when this drunk driver blew off the road and somehow went right by it and hit the whole house and all the way along it. Luckily, no one was, hurt very badly, just to put that out there. So, so that's what we're asking for.
Okay, so you want to put a fence, the referral that we got.
We're waiting on a new one.
Or we're waiting on
It's
a
supposed to be
new-
a 4-foot variance, not a 1.
Okay, so
Oh,
yeah, the
yes,
first
I'm
question
sorry,
I
there was
had
a-
was,
There was a mistake. I want to do an 8-foot fence.
Okay.
And I want to put it 5 foot off the road,
Right.
but I didn't communicate that.
that was
very
my
clearly.
first
Um,
question.
And yeah, so so I think the code is 4 foot and we're asking to go 8.
Okay. So, the distance from the road is
5 foot,
from the edge of the road,
yes,
and the height you want to do is 8.
yes,
And our code says that fences that are shorter than 4 feet have no setback requirements other than that they not obstruct views or sight lines for traffic. But anything taller than 4 feet is subject to setback requirements, and the setback in this R2, I think, is a 40-foot front yard setback. So in order to have an 8-foot fence, you would need to be 40 feet from the property line. So what you're asking for is not a variance from the distance so much as just a variance from the height of the fence at the location.
yes. And there are at least 2 other properties within a mile or a mile and a half that do have this right on this very busy road as well. So it's not completely like out of keeping with the neighborhood and the character.
First thing I looked up is where exactly, I was like, I thought that was Woolworthing right there, but yeah, you knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I've come through this building department.
Mhm.
Right, so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm definitely in the right place.
No, I'm sure you were. I was like, it wouldn't have gotten to us.
Right. Someone would have stopped
Because I
me.
know that Rough Cut is in Woolworthing.
Yes, and we're just 3 doors down.
Right, that's why I was
Yeah.
confused, because like I knew that.
Yes,
Okay.
near that town line, I suppose.
Do you all have any questions about this, just right off the bat?
Before you get
Okay,
into that, I wanted to introduce myself also.
Yes.
I'm Matt Elkin. I'm a life partner and business partner, so I'm both kinds. And also a little bit background on us is that we've been renovating broken and dilapidated properties in the area and bringing them up to code, and also doing green building to modernize and make buildings sustainable as they're falling apart for whatever reason, foreclosure, or in this case, a junk driver ruined the home here. So, but I also just wanted to reiterate that this isn't about, sometimes a fence might be more about privacy or, I don't know, fanciness. But our main focus is really to make this house feel safer. And within that, we'll gain some privacy. But, anyone who comes to enjoy this home in Kerhonkson will know the history of it.
Mhm.
It will be known. So it'd be great to have this kind of, this backup to say, hey, this is what's gonna help. So, and hopefully it would, in case it ever were to happen again. So it's a security blanket of sorts. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a design? I do. Is it in the files? I didn't
No.
see it.
There's just,
I was planning on doing 4x4 posts and horizontal plank 2x6s.
And do you have an image?
I
to
do
share?
have an image, yes.
To be honest, we were a bit on the fence about where we were heading, but no pun intended. Actually, it was maybe intended, but so this
Maybe like
is
that.
more what we're leaning towards.
So it's kind of staggered in that sense. So we get like 12-foot pieces and set the posts every 6 feet.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. So the length of the entire fence, you haven't. I'm
oh,
sorry.
so there is a map in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
file. Did you see
And
that?
I did look at it quickly, just
Oh, yeah.
so we can review for the record.
And would you want me to go point? Would that be helpful? There's a lot of lines up there. I didn't bring my laser pointer though.
That's okay. No, so the gate is to one side of the fence?
The gate is actually set back off the road so that any cart or truck would be able to fully pull off the road safely to manage the gate. So it's 20 feet off, and then the gate comes across the driveway. And it's a 10-foot wide gate.
How far is the house off to the, no, it's not very far.
I think we put it on there. 21 feet.
See 40 foot
Yeah.
line there.
The line that you have in the front there on the property line, is that already calculated from the setback from the state road from the center to that line?
No, it's off of the edge of the road.
You're gonna have to have proper measurement that shows the setback from the center line of the road to that mark to determine the total distance.
Okay.
For the variance. The other thing is, you're probably gonna need something from the state that stipulates that it's okay to put this fence. And you're probably gonna need that before we even consider anything. Because we consider it, the state could say, no, you're not doing it. So.
Yeah.
Is that like a highway department you're referring
it's
to?
new, yeah, next week, you'll see that.
Yeah, Creighton, that was the thing, that was the first thing I was gonna bring up was the state road right of way is at least 50
It's
feet, so
50
it's at
feet,
least
yeah.
25 feet in each direction from the center line of the road, but it might be wider, because that's a US.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it
So-
might be 35 feet. For some reason, that
Yeah.
number's sticking in my mind.
And so that's like, that would supersede anything that we would do, so I think, well, let's maybe explain the process here, so our goal and our job under state law is, well, we have the authority to modify zoning laws for specific instances and linking those modifications to specific properties, right? So if you were to get a variance, it would give specific criteria. We're saying we're modifying this section, not modifying, we're creating an exemption to this small section of code, specifically applying to your property and specifically for these reasons. But it's our mandate under state law to minimize the need to do that. So the first thing we need to do is just work with you all to figure out what your needs are and how we can achieve your needs with the minimum requirement for any variance at all. And really our highest goal is to make it so that there's no variance required and still meet everyone's needs. So that's our primary mandate. But the way we have to do that is we have to look at the situation, think about why the code's written the way it's written, think about what you all are trying to achieve, if there's other options to achieve that. And we have to just like gather all the information before we can make any decisions. So in this case, because of the proximity to the state and federal highway, just the very first thing is, can you even build anything there? And then the second thing, even if yes, is would the state, county, and federal highway people feel that it was safe in terms of sight lines?
Right.
So like, that's the biggest thing in our code is it's the 4 feet is mostly about sight lines for drivers. So that's like gonna be a big concern here because.
We would want it to be safe too.
Right, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, so the town has an interest in making sure it's safe in that regard, and you all have an interest in making sure the property is safe.
For sure.
And then we have to figure out how those two interact with each other. So that's gonna be, like, in terms of our information gathering phase, that's the first thing, is just what else is involved here. We can refer this, we can send this to our town highway department, but he's probably gonna kick it right back and say this is a town road.
Right.
We can also refer it to the county. Do we have a state DOT
I
contact?
can look and see if I have one.
Okay, so we can,
I think the county's gonna kick it down the road too.
yeah,
Because
State road.
44 starts right at.
Right.
209
Yeah.
right there, that's the federal side of things.
Right. So we can, Jasmine might be able to help get it in front of the right eyes.
Right.
But you all might also be able to make progress on that.
Yeah,
independently,
definitely.
Just like, what are the applicable regulations and who needs to sign off on it
Right.
or
Okay.
give comment on it?
Yep.
And what is even the right of way that the state or feds control? So, or have right to veto. So-
Isn't it, it's State Route 4455?
And US, state route US Route 44.
Starts
right at
209, goes all the way to Cape Cod.
Yeah, our address doesn't say 55 for some reason. I
It's
noticed that. I was saying it for so long, 4455, but then I was corrected that it was just Route 44.
Well, because it's a US highway and a state highway that run congruent with each other. They're on
And they
top of
are
each other.
both right there?
They're
Okay,
on the same-
because I used to always think that too, but then I saw that people weren't referring to it that way.
I think
so
in the
stopped.
post office
They split
addresses,
it. Across the river.
Yeah, they'll
they
split.
split again across the river and 44 starts at 2.
Okay, so potentially we would need from both.
Potentially, I don't know. I don't think anyone on this board has
Okay,
dealt with this kind of question.
I think state,
Right.
for one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be that the feds have said, hey, state, you guys maintain this. I'm sure the state is maintaining this probably through the county, probably has. Is it state trucks that plow it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's gonna be the state.
and is that 44?
Yeah.
That's a state route. It's
44
actually state
and
route
then-
55.
55,
US 44.
55.
You, okay,
Okay, we only have an Ulster County contact.
Okay.
Okay, so we can, help with that a little bit, like Jasmine can help,
okay,
Thank you.
to figure that out, but that's gonna be the biggest thing is like, they probably have a right of way, where that right of way ends,
yeah,
and then what their rules are in that right of way.
yep,
Cause they might just be like, nope, and then it's not helpful to do this. right?
correct, yeah.
So,
Understood.
but assuming that stuff all checks out, we have to gather information. We would have back and forth with you all when we feel we have enough information or have made any changes in agreement with you all about what you're asking for. Then it would get scheduled for a public hearing. Neighbors would get notified. It would go in the paper on the town website. Then we have a public hearing,
Mhm.
and then we would make a decision about what.
Okay. So is that usually 2 additional meetings?
It's a minimum, yeah.
Okay.
Well, sometimes the decision in the public hearing can happen in the same meeting. It depends what happens.
Okay.
Once we close the public hearing, we have
But we're definitely not gonna be able to schedule a public hearing tonight because we definitely don't have enough information.
Yes, yes.
Some other bits of, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we should have more information.
For next month.
Yeah.
Right.
So then we would submit that
Come to that
as a
meeting.
second visit
2 weeks,
to you.
2 weeks
Yeah.
from today is the cutoff.
Okay, yeah, we should be, hopefully get some answers within 2 weeks, talking to the right people.
Yeah,
And then we would just do this again with new
Right.
information,
Yeah.
unless they say no.
Unless they have their
Right.
own hearings.
yeah.
Right,
Just-
Or there might be, you might be able to find information online that says like, for this highway, these are the setbacks and these are the required, we just are gonna, that's the first thing.
Sometimes, in other contexts, I know I've had assistance from state legislators. When you need an answer from a state bureaucracy, your state assembly person or state senator can oftentimes get an answer for you if you feel like you're getting a runaround.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you might try that.
If you've
And
tried.
for our purposes, I think in the past, we've had fence variances, it's
Yeah.
one of the things that comes up. People have sometimes sent, if you're saying, I thought that was a good point, that you say it's consistent with the neighborhood. So to identify specific properties in the neighborhood that you make a comparison.
yeah,
That gives me some sense of,
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Right,
And,
that might be good for the state too.
Perhaps, yeah. And the other thing, 2 other things are, the type of fence. Without prejudging anything, I'm struck by, if you're talking about safety, I'm not so sure, my friends here probably know more than me about how much extra safety you're getting from a wooden fence on a state highway. I guess it would slow a car down. It's not gonna
That's the
stop.
goal, yeah,
But
not-
anyway, that's
yeah.
just, yeah, and because one of the things that we have to do is consider what are the alternatives to what you're proposing? So a question for me would be, would there be a more substantial metal structure that could be, covered over perhaps with wood veneer that would serve the same purpose and not require 8 foot? Now that's not getting perhaps to your sense of what you're gonna feel inside the home is, I mean, I got a sense from what you wrote that it's partial reality and partial perception.
Yeah.
That you wanna create a feeling of safety.
well, but we also want it to be
But you want it to
safe.
be safe.
I
so-
mean, this person crashed through the living room.
Right.
I mean, you
yeah.
could really be sitting in a chair and
Because of
have
the
a car come
proximity,
through the
sure.
house, yeah.
Sure, but this is why I'm saying to say that you've considered alternatives.
Yeah.
Would be helpful. So you might talk to some fencing. people. I'm not an expert on it. Might be an idea.
Right, due diligence.
Yeah, I had the same question. Sorry, I feel like I'm saying. Other alternatives that we'll sometimes look at when we're talking about privacy or screening type situation is like, why wouldn't a hedgerow of arborvitae achieve the same goal?
I guess because of the deer,
Which wouldn't require variance, right? So it's like,
yeah.
so those are the kinds of questions that we also need to explore.
Well, actually, I was already thinking about it. I was like, oh, wow, this sounds terrible. I'm gonna have to go to the state. It's probably all on vacation. But maybe I'll reach someone who will give me an answer. But I was thinking, well, I can always just do a 4-foot fence and do plantings, but you know, that would be an alternative.
Yeah, so exploring that, thinking about if it works for you, because that's one of the things, right? Like, if you think that works for you, then we're like, great, like, get out of here. We don't need.
I mean, I don't think it feels the same.
Right.
I think it would be an easier route.
So those are the
But I think
questions.
someone could crash right through, for
Right.
sure.
I think that's where, to Ken's point, some
I mean, a
information.
solidly built fence would definitely, I mean, it probably wouldn't stop like a 18-wheeler, right? Like,
You need it with a guardrail. with a
Right.
stop car.
right, yeah.
This was a little sedan.
The other question.
Right,
might
it's
be-
fast, and it's like slightly downhill.
Yeah, there might be, I bet there's a highway transportation safety bureau study on like the effects of fences on cars.
Yeah, definitely, I'm sure.
And also, no, I'm confused. Is it a 5-foot high or an 8-foot?
8-foot high.
8-foot high.
Five
So
feet.
From the edge of
So that sounds high to us, to me anyway.
Yeah.
If it's 4 feet on the road front, then one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is, what percent of the, or how significant is the variance? And sometimes that's expressed as a mathematical formula.
Right.
Not always, but sometimes. And so if you say, we want an 8-foot fence and the standard is 4, you're asking for what could be considered 100% variance.
Right.
Whereas a 6-foot fence would only be a 50% variance. And I can kind of preview, but that would be one of the questions that I would say as well, okay, you don't think 4 foot is enough, but what about 6? Again, because as Sam pointed out, our job is to try and mediate between the property owner's interests and the existing town rules that are presumably set up with some deal of thought.
I think
Yeah.
6 foot would feel comfortable, most people's like eyes wouldn't be much higher than that, and I always think about like, what's the height of a car, right? So if you're sitting in your living room and cars are zooming by, a 6-foot fence would also block most of the cars. An 8 would block most of the trucks, 6 would block most of the cars,
If you're dealing with.
4 wouldn't block
I don't
anything.
want blocking yours. And that's.
For which?
If you're looking at doing a wood fence, then that's not the application. If you're worried about it being a barrier for the vehicle penetrating, getting to the house, that's not gonna do what you're after. It would have to be something a lot more substantial. Something metal based, something that would be able to restrict the vehicle from getting all the way to your house.
Right.
So you might wanna consider some.
And cars come in, or they'd be able to see to get out the driveways with an 8-foot fence. I don't think, there's no way you're gonna be able to see.
Well, that would be considered with sightlines and preparation and construction. We wouldn't do it if there were blind spots.
And sometimes, again, I think you were talking about the difference between 6 and 8. With respect to privacy, because you were saying what you're gonna see inside, not so
Something
much.
different, right?
Yeah,
That's-
something, not so much, that's what because the additional feet on top doesn't really do much in terms of safety, but it's a privacy. thing.
Yeah, it's
And-
basically being in the house and not seeing
Right.
the potential for disaster going by your window every day. And so that's the inside perspective or perception, as you were saying. From the other side, when we're talking about safety, we discussed this very early on. what happened to the guardrail? Why did that not serve its purpose? Because we went around it. But then is a wood fence going to do anything? And it definitely is a disruptor to what would happen. Is it going to prevent someone's life from being taken on the inside? There's no way to know that. Or the foundation from being taken out again.
I'm just so, without vexing into the hearing here, I'm just saying, you might want to consider what you're truly after. Are you after privacy, or are you after mitigation from a vehicle?
Well,
We're
it's
after both.
It's a blend.
Yeah, so
We're definitely after both.
Okay.
Well, there's something
I
called
think-
crash fence ratings.
Yeah.
I
Sure
think
it does.
Crash rating.
part of included probably is coming south, down the hill.
I think so.
They come in on an angle just above the guardrail.
Because the main
Guardrail
impact
drops off.
was, yeah, the main impact was closer to the driveway.
Yeah.
And then went along the rest of the house.
Any other questions for us?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, so the things we're gonna want to see for you guys, or from you guys for the next meeting is just some more exploration of what, it sounds like some clarification on what your needs are in terms of like physical barrier safety, and also versus just like feeling secure in the house that you're not constantly thinking about it. And then,
Clarification in what sense?
well, I
Like,
mean,
we're definitely interested in both of those.
right, so like,
Equally, one's not, well, I think safety is most important, but privacy is equally important
so on
to
the
the
safe,
property.
like just speaking for myself, if you guys were to come in here with like, here's the fence we're gonna build, here's a report showing that a car moving
Yes.
at 50 miles per hour is gonna be substantially slowed down by this kind of a fence, and it needs to be 8 feet in order to have that impact, right? Like, for me, that would feel meaningful.
Right, so have like the
Versus-
signs behind, it, sure.
Or some kind of information
Okay.
saying why this type of fence creates physical safety and why it needs to be 8 feet versus 4 feet or 6 feet or whatever.
Okay,
And then on the sort of screening, more psychological aspect, which I think is also a valid thing to, be interested in, like, are there other ways of achieving that goal? Like you were saying, maybe a combination of a shorter fence with a planting, right? So like just looking in that space of what are the options
yeah,
to achieve each of those goals independently, and then where they intersect like most fruitfully in terms of achieving your goals.
okay,
And then I think we're also going to want to see some more information on like what the right of way regulations are for that specific.
yes, I'll
highway.
definitely, yes,
And then also pursue it, like relatedly to that, some clearer mapping of location relative to the like physical landmarks that are relevant for assessing setbacks and rights of way. So like the language gets a little mathy. Didn't you used to be a math teacher? Am I remembering that? I feel like we
He's
met.
first
in some
grade
forms of-
teacher.
Okay, first grade.
We used to farm together.
Okay, right. I think I would remember that. Okay. But we want to have like our town regulations measure things from the center line. So they're like our town ones say from the center line of the road, you measure this far and then you start counting. Whatever the state or feds say, we're gonna want maps that just indicate where
Okay.
those different lines are.
I see.
So sometimes the edge of the pavement is like not a relevant
okay,
point.
no problem, we could do that.
Yeah, so like a lot of times they want to know the center, it's like the center line as it currently is painted.
Yep.
And then a lot of times they're measuring out.
Okay,
Yeah, so those are the things we're gonna want to look at.
The other thing too is when you present it, make sure you're presenting the diagram, the details that you're seeking the variance for. Because if we are to approve a variance based on a mitigating circumstance, it has to follow that diagram. In other words, it can't be altered later on. Otherwise, a new variance would be needed. All you're doing is restarting the clock. And number two, when you're looking at this stuff and you're considering all these things, take into account all 4 seasons, not just the way it is right now. Okay, look at things like snow plowing, stuff like that. It's just advice.
Definitely.
we've had as a reason in the past why plantings wouldn't work, is just that when you're very close to the road, like snow plowing, salt, things like that can make plantings impossible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We also, she's a landscape designer and she
Yeah.
mentioned arborvitae's, deer food.
Yeah,
And we don't want to attract
right.
things for people to dodge and
Right.
swing
It's
into
also,
that.
it also just happens to be a very tight spot with the septic, which is
Sure.
why I've been trying to avoid plantings there.
Right.
It's also a big part of it, like
Is the
that is
septic right there
literally the
between the
septic,
road?
that 21 feet
You
is
gotta
the
love these
septic
open
area.
options.
That on the maps.
Yeah.
Anything that'll help us make a consideration.
Yeah.
It's gonna help.
Right. Specificity is your friend with variances, because we want to be like, there's 18 specific
Right.
reasons why these. other
Why,
things
like,
don't work.
I can only do something that's like 6
Right.
inches wide. Yes,
Right.
basically. Yep, that's part of it. But yes, as soon as we finish that foundation, I can find the rest of the septic and map it out. But it's all
Yeah.
piled up right now, so.
Pictures are great. Yeah, any like just support, like we like having a little bit of a pile of documents. So, and Jasmine loves it too.
The more information the better. I tell everybody.
Sure.
Do you all have any more questions for us?
No, I
Okay,
think we've got
stay.
plenty of homework.
Megan's have to stay a lot.
cool. Yeah, and like I said, Jasmine can be helpful. She has some
I'll
contacts.
look. See what I got.
Thank you, that'd be great.
Which part were you at?
Well, we ran Hudson Valley Growth Network.
Right,
for-
okay.
We started it, co-founded it.
Right. And,
when we moved
okay,
here back in
that's right.
2000.
You used to have
Right.
potlucks.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, that's why y'all look so familiar.
It was when farmers didn't talk to each other in the Hudson Valley, and then they started to talk to each other.
Great. Well, thank you for that.
We were remembering actually you had a Rosendale fundraiser, which
Wait, I
was
didn't
great.
do something.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah.
Okay, we can eat it.
Right, okay. Good to see you guys.
Great to see you.
Thanks very much.
Have a good night.
All right, great. So the next thing on our agenda is, how do you say your name?
Haven?
Haven
No,
Novi.
David, no.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. Come on up.
Good evening.
Welcome. You probably heard that same spiel for you. So it's a new application. We'd like to start with you just explaining what you're trying to do, how you got here, what's going on.
Sure. So for a few years now, I've been kind of in the need of building a garage. Knowing what the setbacks were, I kind of looked at a variety of different things over the last few years. Right now, in the place I'm looking at, I've got a shed that's there. That was approved back in 22 years ago when I built the house. I've also got a tent shed there. So I'm looking to put a garage in place at the end of my driveway. Most of it would be on my established driveway right now. In order to fit it, even squishing it down to 34 feet wide. I originally wanted 38. I can do 34 to get my 3 bays that I need. I am requesting to be able to build 25 feet from property line. I have spent the time kind of mapping out the property. You can see from the measurements there. I've looked at in front of the house. I have the well, and the way that the flag lot is kind of cut there, it makes it a little bit tough to even meet the property line there without having something directly off my front doorstep. Behind the house, I've got the septic with 100% reserve behind the septic as per the approved plans. So I'm kind of limited, and I do have my basement is a walkout basement, French doors and a sunken patio. And that is the entry access. My walkway goes from my driveway down around that left side of the house to the back of the house. So I can't go directly up against the house. As it is going to the 25 feet variance versus trying to push everybody here to 20. I will be removing the garden area along the side of the house there to give myself some extra room for walkway to get to my residence entrance on that side of the house, as well as my sunken patio and access to the back of my house. I did take just last night, did a couple of quick photos. I'm not sure if we have there as well, but this just kind of gives a more of a close-up of what it looks like. I'm looking to, I have the shed there now. It's a little bit dilapidated. I will be keeping the shed, but moving it to the back of the house, just for added storage for kids' dirt bikes and all that fun stuff. Then, so looking to really kind of clean things up and maintain my equipment and that kind of thing. I did speak with both of the concerning neighbors there back before this started, just to kind of the unwritten neighborly laws. Neither one have any issues with it. They can't actually, because of the distance from the one neighbor can't see it at all. The other neighbor, it's about 375 to 400 feet from corner of where the garage will be to their house, with trees and everything between the two. I spoke with them and they have zero plans on doing any building or anything back there in the wooded area.
So the front of the proposed garage is.
Yeah, I kind of just,
It's contiguous with the front of the house, absent the porch, absent the front porch. In other words, is this line parallel to
yes,
that?
yes. The goal will be to keep the front porch in front of the garage so that I'm not staring at the side of it. So it would be right along basically the foot of the house there. And my back deck is 6 feet wide, and then the steps coming down, so I'm like right at about 16 feet. I did, like I mentioned, I had originally wanted to go with a 30, I drive a 3/4 ton truck. My son has a big full-size truck as well. So we originally wanted 10-foot doors, which would have pushed me to a 38-foot garage. But we shrunk it down going to the 34, and I extended a couple feet off the back, because I know that doesn't affect the variance itself.
Do you guys have questions?
Where the garage doors, is that gonna be the gable end or is that gonna be the front?
That's gonna be the front, so the
Okay.
roof line will match the house itself. It was a matter of yeah, I'll have the snow falling on me that way, but I think it'll match the.
Why I asked, because the
Oh, really?
roof wall going out to the side might go potentially over to the.
Now the snowfall will be in front, and that way it matches the house as well. I do on the left side there of where the garage is right now. That is all filled in, right? Obviously, because the shed is there, but to the left behind that, the white fence is the power box coming from the roadway.
Is there a transformer in there?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
that's, well, not the tree, yeah, there's a transformer box and then the power meter.
Right.
And that's all there to the left. That won't be affected at all. From where I'm looking to put this in, I'm looking to be right on the edge of that.
So the reason, so I have a 2-bay garage that's 20 by 20. It's older, it's smaller. And what's the reason? Because if you did a 20 by 20, you'd basically be matching that 40-foot setback.
I guess I'm in a good bad place, if you will. I've got a Harley, I've got a full-size tractor, and my son races motocross. My other son does roofing work. He's got a lot of tools and equipment that right now we're kind of packing everything into a shed. We're doing all of the work that he does. He and I are doing that on a gravel driveway. And it's just not advantageous. And I will admit, that I'm 5 years from retirement, and my midlife crisis will probably be a classic car or truck at some point, and I can't purchase one until I have the proper space to store it. No, I mean, we're looking really it's the equipment we have, my tools, cleaning up my property. Like I said, I have 2 sheds right now. I've got a jet ski that's out in in the weather in my driveway year round, because I don't have storage area for that. So literally every square foot of what I'm looking, the square footage I'm looking at will be used.
The truck alone is, I think, 20 feet long.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
sure.
and with the plow on there, I'm an extra 5 feet.
I know the trucks, yeah, I was more thinking about the width, like, so then the other question I had was if you pivot, like, I know the layout's tight, but have you looked at having the bays either face to the left-hand side?
I did, not to cut you off, I
Yeah.
actually spray painted it and I bought a bunch of little soccer cones and I actually put bay doors there
Yeah.
and tried to jimmy our trucks and my
Mhm.
wife's car in and out of there. And it was basically not going to happen,
Did you
especially
happen to take any
having,
pictures or videos of that?
I do not, because it was actually like a year and change ago that I did that. Um.
It'd be helpful
Having,
to have, if you drew what that was and even just wrote a little narrative of like what you tried, why you tried it, and just what happened. Don't like reset it up, but if you draw it on the paper.
I think even if you look at the measurements that are proposed, I mean, that, I don't
25
even-
feet on here.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it would work. And I believe you that you tried it and it didn't work.
We just-
But part of our job is to explore it.
Yep.
And just having you like write it down that you tried it and draw another piece of paper where I tried this and here's why it
Okay.
didn't work.
Anything that can give us a qualifying reason for granting the variance is something that's gonna help.
I can,
Yeah, because we want to know, you know, why we can't do, you know, like, yeah, like a pivot or something so that it maybe it's the same size garage, but it's a smaller variance for you.
I'm interested in how you're gonna get a full-size truck in those doors. I,
10-foot doors.
well, 9 foot,
Nine.
I wanted 10, and that's why I
I'm
shrunk
sorry,
it
that's
down
far
to
be it for
9.
me to try to encourage needing a bigger variance. But I'm saying to myself, there's just no way.
With the
I-
mirrors, you're not gonna do it.
Well, I've got the auto mirrors, both of my son has the same truck with the auto mirrors. And if those trucks, my truck, I have a company car, my truck will be in there a lot of the time on its own. And then just pulled out when we need the extra space or I'm actually traveling with it. My son's truck will be sometimes in and out with his equipment and what the weather and that kind of
Kind of hard to back up when your mirrors are closed in.
I had, no, I won't make any comments.
Okay, and then, yeah, I mean, I get the stuff about the bath, like with the septic field. That'll make sense. The other thing, just to throw out there, is you think your neighbor on, like, what is that? South, to the left of the garage,
So
would want to sell you 15 feet?
I doubt it. They just bought the property and they were ecstatic about having the acreage.
Yeah.
She does, they're very much into natural wildlife,
Sure.
herbal stuff. And a lot of it's wildflowers in the woods. I don't think it's gonna grow at all because it's all dead cedar woods, but, I can, then again, I mean, I'd love to, because I'd love to have more
Right.
property, but in reality, then I'm into the hardship area of, it's gonna cost me another $10,000 or $15,000 or whatever it is, $20,000, $30,000 these days to get, to purchase that property from her.
Yeah, and you have to do a lot line.
Yeah, then survey, yeah, that it's, to be honest, that's not gonna,
Just explore it
yeah.
quickly, just in case.
I can
Yeah,
tell
one
you.
of the things, because yeah, like maybe there's even a swap where it's like, you make it have a 15-foot and then a 15-foot, on
that
the
happen.
back of your property. We've seen stuff, like when I was on the planning board, we've seen stuff like that,
Okay,
where it's like, you want this and they don't really care because they're not gonna use that. And you don't really want to be selling stuff to each other, but sometimes you can just change
Right.
the shapes of the lines a little bit.
my problem, just to where it is a flag lot,
Right.
so literally my driveway that parallels their property, is very narrow.
Yeah,
It's basically, it was wide enough when my family purchased the property
yeah,
In
the
the
flag lots are
50s
funky, yeah.
to,
Can you, Jasmine, could you put up the flag, the aerial picture again? I mean, it's like a little silly, but all you would have to do would be to have it come out 15 feet. Then you could give them 15 feet back there or something, so that it's an even. It just if they're, it's a question for
What's
asking because they would obviate the need for variance.
I'll check with anything,
If they, I'm sorry, but what I was thinking was if that worked, you could also then think about doing it larger,
Right.
right? So you could,
You're wired.
you could get the motivation you want.
Yeah.
And maybe neighbors will be open to it. But
There's at
doesn't-
least
And
worse
and
than
there's a
that.
possibility, so I don't mind asking.
And then it's
related
just
to
a
it.
lot line adjustment, which, the costs are pretty minimal.
Pretty minimal.
Yeah, you probably have to meet the cost, but still, anyway.
Yeah, it would be a survey, you'd have to go to the planning board, but those don't have public hearings, I don't think. So it can all happen in one meeting if everything's there.
The survey's nice and pretty.
It's just a thing to explore, because our job, like you probably heard us say before, is
Yep.
to explore options and minimize the needs for variances. Okay, do you all have any other questions or information you want to see here?
Don't.
If you have any old maps that show, like you said, you had the old approvals from the original lot layout that just like show the location of the septic and where the reserve area is from when you originally got the county board of health, I guess, approvals. If you have any of that, that's just helpful too. Of like, I couldn't do it here because of this, like it's helpful to us to have all the specific things that you looked at and that were ruled out for reasons that are outside your control.
Okay, and I did put that in my write-up and. also
Yeah, it was in
on that
there,
map,
yeah.
I have that it's 39 feet
Yeah.
from the property line to the edge of the septic.
Your sketch was great. I think even if you do like another sketch that's a little more zoomed out that shows that if you don't have, or you can also just send us, even if you like have the old big printout,
Yep.
just
I
take
do have
a
it.
snap it on your
Yeah.
phone and print it as a PDF.
I'll send it through. Fantastic.
It's just good for us to have that in our file because when we do the decisions, it's important that we say, well, this isn't for anyone who wants to build, it's like there's reasons that are specific to this parcel.
Anything else I can?
Well, no, that's a hell of a jam, because I can see the vehicle, it's still getting there. I'm like, there's no way, I did.
No, we've had these garage ones
right now.
before, because we had, what was it,
Yeah.
What was that property on,
Granite, right? Was that the one
What is
up on
it?
Granite?
no, we had the one where they had like the wetlands and they had this, they also
Oh,
had
yeah,
like
it
a
was on
walkout
that.
basement.
No, that wasn't.
It was Bjorn, Bjorn's.
Yeah, that's
parent.
okay.
That was
Yeah,
up-
it was up with it. That was.
It was the same thing, where you're like,
There's no way.
how are you gonna do it, right? And they had the same thing with pictures of the cones and they were like, here's the
Right.
trailer.
Shooting the taking videos.
Well, and honestly, like I said, we had discussed the bigger, because I wanted 10-foot bays, but even with that, even if I went bigger, even if you approved me at 20 feet, then I actually get into having to move the power, the electric and all that, so when it's all said and done and I laid it out, and looked at it, I was like, all right.
No, you're dealing
This-
with what you can deal with right now, that's.
So you're maxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe go 2 doors instead of 3, wider doors.
we had talked about that as well.
Might be easier to get in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one.
That's a big door.
Giant.
One day.
I'll do a U-turn.
I know.
But we have looked at
Not
other
give up.
options with the doors. I had looked at 2 big doors and then a small, like an 8-foot door on the, do 2 10-footers and an 8-footer, but I'm still at that same square footage. I have,
I was just encouraging you to explore everything that you're truly after, because anything that we approve is going to have to adhere to what was submitted.
Right.
That's. I don't want to see you say, well, you know what, I changed my mind, now I need a 16-foot variance, and now
well, that's
I need
easy.
another one.
You see where on the one photo I have spray paint marks. In fact, when you stopped by yesterday, I still got the spray paint marks there from when I had gone through and had my had my wife backing in and out of the one spot, and we were actually using the two bays that you can see where the garage is not, pulling into those and that kind of thing. Just to make sure it would happen without severe damage.
All right. Okay, you guys got anything else? Yes, I think, what were you saying?
Say, should we just try to schedule a public hearing then?
I feel like, well, I don't know what everyone else thinks. I feel like I'd like to just have you explore some of the quick things we talked about. Check with your neighbor.
I can get back to you within a couple or a few days with all the things that you've requested here. I mean, I can talk to them this weekend and sketch something up even tomorrow. And that kind of thing. So it shouldn't take me a day or two to.
With that, is there a time issue on your end? I mean, you know, with us, everything is a month.
There is-
months.
There is a little bit. I'm on my garage now. Right now I'm getting a discount on the garage I'm putting in. When that runs out, it runs out. I lost a 5% discount, which a couple $1,000 rolling into the extension here. That's on me. I just got lucky when they were, when I was making the purchase of it. The sooner the better, just in far as getting the foundation, the slab put in, and then getting the purchase made and that kind of thing. But I'm at your mercy, so I'm not gonna.
I'm just thinking that it doesn't sound like there's that much, and if the applicant is willing to do something with a quick turnaround. What's the downside of scheduling the public?
I mean, the only downside is if I think it's just important that we all feel like we have everything we need and that we're confident we have everything we need. Because if we don't want to be we can always hold public hearings open, but we don't want to be in a situation of like, next time someone wants to go fast and we really don't feel like we have to.
I'm fine with it.
I
don't
feel
think anybody
comfortable
else-
too. I just want to flag that, flags. I just want to call attention to maybe if information comes out, we might want to hold the public hearing open and say, you come back with something that we don't have to. But there's no harm in, if we all feel like we basically have the information we need,
Can't just close the public hearing.
Right. And Sam, to that point about precedence, I mean, I think it behooves us. I mean, you put a lot of work into coming to us with information. You did your job, we'll do ours.
Great. Okay, so you want to make that motion?
I'll move it.
Making
I'll move that we schedule the application, Mr. Novi, for a public hearing for the
July
next available meeting in July. 20th.
July 18th.
July 18th.
All right, I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, so we're gonna set that. Still try to get us that stuff as quick as you can.
Oh, definitely.
Which I think, so you wrote it down, but it was checking with your neighbor. And then. The
original
drawing,
plans.
yeah, anything you have on where the septic is, and then if you have
And then this.
some narrative or a sketch of the other things that you explored and why they didn't work out.
And with the public hearing happening, if your neighbors aren't gonna come to the public hearing, maybe get something in writing from them that they're for it,
Or
or
they
not
can
against
email
it,
me.
or email.
It'll be on the notice that they can send it.
My one neighbor had already offered to write something that, either way, so.
All right,
All the neighbors within 500 feet.
they'll get a letter.
That's not to say you have to bang on the doors to get no.
I love the bang on their doors. All right, fantastic.
Great, thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Nice meeting everybody.
You too. Have a good one. Okay, so we've got
Oh, thank you.
some other matters, which are basically just to approve minutes. I have been remiss in the past in not reviewing them. I've reviewed them all. I'm ready to move to approve them. Did anyone have any notes or edits?
No.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve both the March 21st, 2024 meeting minutes and also the May 16th, 2024 meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a second? second from Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed, anyone abstaining? No. Okay, great. That's it. So, motion to
Any other
adjourn.
business?
Should we reach out to Harley and make sure everything's all right?
Yeah, I'll shoot him a text.
Just
Maybe
I don't
Jasmine, if you
want
can also
them
send him an
to
email.
Fall behind them. We have,
Yeah, I don't want that either. And if there's something going on, it's just good for us to follow, make sure you do.
Well, can I ask you a question? What happened with, roller skates?
They withdrew.
They were true.
I don't know exactly what's going on,
They're
but
moving, planning board, they withdrew.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, the letters in the file, there's a withdrawn application folder. And it's in there and there's a email and they're just saying, you know, they're withdrawing for now. If at a later date, they want to move forward with it again, they'll come back.
They will.
Yeah,
yeah,
Cool.
it's fine.
Okay.
all right.
thank you.
So, and then for what I'll follow up with Mary Lou about dotting our i's and t's with Friendly Acres, make sure I understand the context to understand anything we're getting from code enforcement.
Yeah.
A letter attached to those photos.
Also, I know you visited some of the properties. It's totally fine to visit. When we're visiting active applications and we want to walk on the properties, it's good for us to schedule it with the applicant through Jasmine. So that's just a reminder for everyone. From the road is always fine. You're not doing anything wrong, but everyone's happier if we
Notify
have
them.
Jasmine send an email or call, be like, hey, can we come visit? Just so that no
And
one
also
feels
some-
weird. Or if there's someone who can help understand what's going on, that they're there to show you. But that's the only other note I had. Okay,
All right.
well, then now motion to adjourn.
So
All right, meeting adjourned at 7:02. Up to an hour. Now we'll go back